Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Gerry Hamilton and CJ Vogel. It's time for this week's edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. And Gerry, anytime we bring the Recruiting Breakdown to the On Texas Football audience, it's brought to you by our good friend Mark Saunders.
Yep, the best Texas All-State agent out there. That is Mark Saunders. He serves the Austin and Round Rock area and the entire state of Texas. Well, that means he's the only insurance agent you'll need, and he can protect all your stuff, everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV for hunting season. You got those, don't you? Call Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders' office today, 512-218-8571. With over 35 years of experience that Texas alum Mark Saunders brings to the table, On Texas Football guarantee is you'll be in great hands. Again, if you're looking for someone local to the Austin and Round Rock area or the entire state of Texas, give Mark Saunders a call today, 512-218-8571. He's not just a Texas All-State agent. He's a Texas alum.
All right, business is starting to pick up on the recruiting trail. It usually does the closer we get to Thanksgiving, and we're just going to run down a couple of positions, look at some targets, some guys that have emerged on the board recently, some guys that have been there for a minute. Gerry, let's start at the offensive line. Briston Martinez is a name that came up almost as soon as, I don't even know if Brian Kelly had gotten out the door yet in Baton Rouge when Briston Martinez's name came up. Gerry, this is an offensive tackle who's not that far from, he's from East Ascension High, so not that far from LSU's backyard, but Texas they're taking a swing here.
Yeah, I mean, he may be able to see the LSU stadium lights from his porch. I don't know. It may be that close. But look, this is a guy that Texas offered in May of 2024 when Kyle Flood was out making evaluations in the spring evaluation period. They offered Briston Martinez 6'6", 305, 310, very athletic. I mean, if you watch his huddle, he's playing tight end. He's split out catching touchdown passes. Not that it's on the regular. He is an offensive tackle. But they use his athleticism to score touchdowns at times when they get in the red zone at East Ascension. But he's a guy that picked LSU. It was always the favorite for him over Alabama, Texas, a number of other schools. Texas had never got him on campus successfully until last weekend after Brian Kelly was fired. That visit went so well. He's now going to expected back for an official visit. We believe that will be the Arkansas game. So that is one offensive tackle that Texas is having success with late. I think what's going to be key with Briston Martinez is when does LSU make their hire and who is that hire going to be? I mean, we're a month out from signing day today. I mean, yesterday was actually a month from signing day. Are these kids going to have to sign with LSU on blind faith and what Frank Wilson tells them on who's going to be the coach at LSU if LSU doesn't have their hire? That seems like open hunting season at that point for teams recruiting LSU commitments. But we'll have to see what happens there. But Texas feels like they have a shot at Briston Martinez. Let's see if he shows up at any other campuses leading up to November 22nd as well, because he is a big athletic offensive tackle prospect. Another offensive tackle Texas has been going after, Micah Smith. That's a no-go. I've said that before. It looks like he'll commit to Ohio State, back off that UCLA commitment. He did visit Tennessee. But Ohio State kicked an offensive tackle commit to the curb, I think, to bring in Micah Smith from a numbers and NIL perspective. Texas remains in contact with Malachi Lee. We'll see if it goes anywhere meaningful. I think it's just been constant communication for the last few weeks or this season. So we'll see if it becomes anything meaningful. Some people have asked about, CJ mentioned as well, about Max Wright showing up at the SMU game Saturday. Texas does not want to lose Max Wright. They'll fight for Max Wright. SMU's trying to make that last 30-day push headed into signing day. But I do want to make it clear, Texas does not want to lose Max Wright. That would not be one if he did flip that Texas says, oh, well, go ahead, guy. I mean, that's not what we're talking about here. Texas wants Max Wright.
Yeah, Gerry, it's things with Micah Smith didn't work out, and my heart just bleeds for you since you had to make the trip to Vero Beach. So somebody had to do it, though.
Jeff, they have the number 1 2028 quarterback in America. So the good thing is, I don't know. I mean, I need to stay there all July. We'll see.
It's hard. Somebody's got to have that unfortunate job to hang out at Vero Beach. CJ, I don't know about any Vero Beach trips for you, but let's look at corners in this class. Teray Davis is a name that's been there for a minute. Micah Smith committed to UCLA. Teray Davis committed to UCLA. And then Jonathan Joseph Jr. out of the greater Houston area, CJ. And it's worth mentioning corners. Texas has been looking for a corner. And, Gerry, you pointed it out before we started recording. Grayson Littleton was offered on November 1st, 2024. So this is right about the time the staff's going to really start putting the pedal to the metal for corner prospects.
Yeah, absolutely. The new name, as you mentioned, was Jonathan Joseph Jr., the son of Texans legend Jonathan Joseph, who didn't leave the Houston area, and that's where his son is playing right now at Houston Stratford. Same time right now at corner, safety, wide receiver has been making plays. He was on campus this past weekend with his mother for the Texas Vanderbilt game, and Texas will be stopping by Wednesday or Thursday later on this week as coaches get out on the trail for their bye week. So he's someone to monitor right now, about 5'10", 5'11". But you watch the tape, you see him make plays on the football more times than you don't. On top of that, he's been a late bloomer in his senior eval. He has offers from UNLV, UCF. A couple of schools are waiting to pull the trigger. But right now, Texas got him on campus this past weekend. And Jeff, as you were talking about, Texas still looking for an additional cornerback prospect. And Haven Finney's not another name to keep an eye on as well. One of those other LSU commits that Texas might be looking to poach later on in this cycle as well.
Gerry may still be bitter about a quarterback recruitment Texas had at the Houston Stratford.
I was just looking at the wiki page, as it turns out.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a recruiting show if I didn't have the opportunity to remind you about Andrew Luck, and I didn't do it. I'd have missed an opportunity there. Nonetheless, Gerry, let's get back to Texas. Linebackers interesting because this staff they're targeting linebacker prospects. They brought in Karan Maycock, the Florida State commit, for an official visit during the Vanderbilt game. Gerry, you think not that Texas is looking to add a linebacker because we know they are. What kind of linebacker are they looking for?
Well, I think they want the longer rangy guy that has the twitch. Who doesn't, right? But obviously you're a blue blood, so you're looking at a little different guy. Texas missed out on Braylon Hodge. He committed to Oregon over Texas after decommitting from Michigan State. Texas offers Karan Maycock, the linebacker from Miami Central, committed to Florida State. Really good player, twitchy kid, good link to him. He came in on an official visit last week, and I'm not sure Texas will make that final push for him. So we'll see where it goes after that. This is a position I'm looking to see if Texas offers somebody when the coaches are out on the road late this week into the weekend. Could Texas circle back on somebody they maybe didn't push for all the way early in June and make that final push for leading up to signing? I think that's potentially possible. I'm not going to reveal that name yet because I think there's some factors there. But I do know Texas has more than just a Karan Maycock that they're looking at right now. But I don't think Karan Maycock is the same as it was last year with the Schefter Armwood linebacker who Texas lost out on to Miami at the end of the day. Texas was all in on that recruitment. I don't think they are here. So we'll see what that means if there's a new offer. If Texas goes back in on and tries to make a late push with somebody they didn't make a push for late in June, July, and then that's a linebacker committed elsewhere. People that are watching this can look up the old visitors list and probably get an idea of who I'm talking about here. But Texas definitely wants to add another linebacker. The question now is, are they going to offer anybody else they haven't to date? And I think there's a chance they do.
CJ, let's go to wide receiver. And look, Texas will be recruiting Jalen Lott until either he's a Longhorn or the ink is dry on that recruitment. And then Jabari Mack with the LSU instability. CJ, are you hearing anything on Jabari Mack, and where do you think wide receiver is right now?
Yeah, it feels like it's between those two, and we've yet to see an additional 2026 visitor on campus over the past weekend for the Vanderbilt game. And on top of that, Texas very selective with their 2026 offers that have been extended recently, none of which to wide receiver. So these are kind of where they're moving right now. Jalen Lott, Jabari Mack, they're going to have to flip one of the two, and those are two really good options if you're down to it, right? If you're able to win one of the two, you've got yourself a hell of a wide receiver added to this 2026 class. But look, I think Jalen Lott's that number one guy on the board right now. And Texas, of course, has been in communication. They've been pushing the envelope for a lot in this recruitment over the last 2 or 3 weeks as well, ramping it up. And going back to our conversation a week ago about LSU commits and kids that grow up in New Orleans or Baton Rouge or in that area. Look, it's tough to look at the purple and gold and say, I don't want to end up there or play for my community, play for my neighborhood. It's more than just signing to a school. It's kind of that community pride there. So we talk about the coaching change of Brian Kelly and the departure of who's going to come in and coach LSU. For a couple of kids in that class, I just don't think it'll matter. And Jabari Mack might end up being one of those kids. Of course, we'll wait and see if he does make it to campus over the next 2 or 3 weeks as Texas hosts Arkansas and Texas A&M on Thanksgiving. But right now, I have to imagine that he's a kid that's going to be in the purple and gold regardless of what happens with that coaching hire.
By the way, do y'all see what I'm looking at right now? That's Chris Henry, pie in the sky recruitment. For the Texas fans wondering, not likely.
So are you saying there's a chance, Gerry?
A lot of chatter starting about Brian Hartline being the next head coach at Penn State. If that gets announced, I still think Texas would be up against it because, look, Ohio State receivers catch a lot of balls, win awards, go high in the draft, and make pretty good NIL jack. So, but I'm not saying you shouldn't have the pie in the sky, Hope. I mean, Chris Henry he's right there. He's just dangling right there in front of you, right? But there has to be some shakeup at Ohio State for that to happen.
No doubt. Gerry, let's look at the defensive line. And I feel like Kenny Baker and Kyle Flood are kind of in the same boat in terms of you've got to add guys at that position. You can never have enough line of scrimmage bodies. But at the same time, you really want to hold on to what you got. So I don't know if balancing act is the right term, but both the line of scrimmage coaches are going to be really, really busy leading up to signing day.
Yeah, I mean, look, Vodney Cleveland was at North Carolina a couple of weeks ago. I mean, who wouldn't want to go, to North Carolina and watch a game right now? Me. But again, I'm not a recruit. So Texas feels good about Vodney Cleveland. I think he'll be back on campus later this month. Corey Wells, some of that Auburn stuff. I think Texas had solidified or worked to solidify that. He did go back to another Auburn game. I think he wanted to see what an SEC ref looked like before he played in the league, but he was there for the Georgia game, I think. But now that Auburn doesn't have a coach again, there's so much going on. And it really is defensive line recruiting is where these coaching changes are. It's like Texas. I mean, Richard Anderson is as good a player as Texas who could recruit in this class, in my opinion. He's the LSU commit out of Edna Carr. Texas has been in contact with him throughout the season. They really ramped it up now since Brian Kelly was let go. But you got to get him on campus. Else it's just communication. And that's the thing. Can you get him back on campus? Can you get him on campus, I should say, late November? That's going to be the key. And Edna Carr's going to be playing probably for a state championship this year. So the schedule could be an issue there. They could play Saturday games. But that's the guy you really, really want. Kendall Gerville, Texas is still in on. They've been in on him even past since the ACL injury in game one. The people around Florida, I think, are trying to tell Kendall Gerville that the defensive line coach will absolutely remain on the staff when the new coach is hired. And I think we all know that's poppycock because you can legitimately not make that statement because if Lane Kiffin were to take the Florida job, and I'm saying he is, take a look at who their D-line coach is. So it's poppycock. But it's recruiting. It is what it is. So can Texas get Kendall Gerville back on campus, right? I mean, that's the question. But Dylan Berryman then, he's been flirting with Ole Miss. I think Texas is really evaluating his senior tape again. I think he's been a little banged up. He's a very good over-the-ball player. But I think Texas, Jamion Winfield, not really happening with Texas right now. I will say this, too, on defensive line recruiting. I won't be shocked if they don't offer somebody else as well. Look, I mean, the coaching changes are really affecting things. You look at LSU with Richard Anderson. You look at Florida with Kendall Gerville. You look at Auburn now. Well, what happens, it's hard for Ole Miss to try to come in and steal a Corey Wells right now because the obvious question you're going to ask is, who's the coach going to be there? Is Lane still going to be there? I mean, so D-line recruiting in the Southeast is in a weird spot right now. I know Kendall Gerville is a guy that Texas really likes, and even though he's had the knee injury, and it wouldn't shock me if he didn't end up back on campus in November. The big question for me is, can they get Richard Anderson on campus in November? Because that is a dude in this class.
To add to the Edna Carr conversation, Hayward Howard Jr., the teammate of Richard Anderson at Edna Carr, was hoping to make it to the Vanderbilt game. Their game Friday evening went late. Obviously, the quick turnaround with 11 a.m. kick. He was unable to make it. Wasn't a time for a flight to make it beforehand. So we'll see because they're very close-knit in that community, as I mentioned. Everybody talks down there, and Texas has been, something that has been brought up between the Howards and the Andersons. So we'll see if, Arkansas or Texas A&M game is a likelihood for Anderson to make the trip.
Gerry, I want to get to 2027 quarterback. CJ's got some details on that. But before we do that, when you look at these position groups, Gerry, offensive tackle, corner, linebacker, wide receiver, defensive line, are there any of those that you think Texas could either want to target in the portal, or you think that Texas should maybe go target somebody in the portal?
Yeah, I think maybe interior offensive line, right? I mean, it's going to be hard. I know people just want to revamp the offensive line, but look, if Trevor Gooseby returns next year, Brandon Baker is playing well. He's locked in. I mean, you're not going to go pay a portal tackle what they want because it's not going to be a starter. So I think you have to continue to develop players there. Interior offensive line might be a little different for me. We'll see there. I still think Texas really likes Daniel Cruz. From everything I hear, they just felt like he needs more seasoning at center, just some more time to learn the position and really be ready to play when his time comes. So I look at that. I think a linebacker in the portal is definitely possible. I think that's definitely possible. I think maybe the size speed combo to go with some of the young guys in the middle is possible. I'm looking CJ at corner, depending. So here's one of the interesting things that will come in the spring. And gosh, do we have a long off season to talk about all this? Does Grayson Littleton move to corner in the spring and become Jahdae Barron a year earlier? That's the question I have, because if that were to happen, and I'm not saying it is, then Texas might look at an experienced nickel in the portal, or will they just look at a corner in the portal potentially? I think that'll be interesting to see, CJ.
Yeah, I'm with you, because look, we've talked about it on previous shows. I know on the Monday live stream with Coach Shipley and Rod Babers, Rod's biggest point with the corners is you got to make plays on the football. Texas hasn't been able to do that this year. Yeah. And, over the weekend against Vanderbilt, you saw 5 cornerbacks play 10 or more snaps. You haven't seen that the entire year unless Texas was playing a G5 team, right? So Texas is searching for a permanent solution. And right now, I don't think that they feel like they have that. So to your point, did the 9 or 10 snaps Grayson Littleton saw at cornerback against Florida, did that kind of leave some writing on the wall for his eventual long-term solution? And on top of that, I think Texas really likes what they have with Cade Phillips. Yeah. 19 snaps over the weekend. That tells me that, hey, they're trying to get him on the field and keep him on the field as long as possible. So to your point, Gerry, if there's some shakeup with Littleton moving to the outside, well, look, that's a very important position that Texas needs to fill, or at least have some sort of solution for at that star spot.
Gerry, the only other position I talk about relating to the portal, and you just brought it up in terms of high school recruiting, is interior defensive line. And, I know they love going to the portal for defensive linemen, but if you look at the depth chart, I mean, everybody with the exception of Cole Brevard and Travis Shaw, who are out of eligibility, if Hero Canoe decides to come back, you may just be content to take what you've got, develop what's in-house, bring in the freshman, and Kenny Baker be good with that being the makeup of the room. I
think the big thing would be an experienced player over the ball that has SEC size. I think that's the one. Now, could there be a need depending on how many guys stay outside of that? Yeah, but I think right now that's what I'm looking at. I'll also say throw one more out for the portal. Jake Collette's a very talented kicker, but that doesn't mean if a portal kicker doesn't come available, then they give Jake Collette a year or two transition into college football. That couldn't be something that's looked at, because the decision to get Mason Shipley and let go of last year's kicker has been a very smart one.
No doubt that has helped for sure. Gerry, we'll wrap this up on the other side, but before we do, one more time, let everybody know why they need to go see our good friend Mark Saunders.
Yes, well, because he's a Texas alum, one, and he's a Texas All-State agent that serves the Austin around our area and the entire state of Texas, two. Call him today, 512-218-8571. He is the only insurance agent you'll need. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Give Texas alum Mark Saunders a call today, 512-218-8571.
CJ, let's talk 2027 quarterbacks. Kavian Bryant commits to Texas Tech, but you spotted a visitor at the Vanderbilt game. That's a name, we'll call it somewhat local-ish. Tell us about the 2027 quarterback that Texas could be at least keeping warm right now.
Yeah, could be is probably the best way to put this, but he is a talented player. Ty Knutson out of Smithson Valley, 2027 quarterback, was on campus this past weekend for the Vanderbilt game. Look, he split time with an Air Force signee a year ago as Smithson Valley played all the way up until the state championship game. Talented player. He received a spur of offers in the month of June. Texas Tech, Texas A&M, TCU, North Texas, all teams right now that have found ways to put pretty good quarterbacks on the field. So it's worth keeping an eye on him. He said he was able to spend time with A.J. Milwee, a couple of the recruiting personnel department members as well after the game. It's going to be really interesting because he plays on Thursday night. Does a Texas coach, member of that staff, make the trip down to San Antonio to watch him play? That would give you an indication of where things are headed over the next couple of months. But right now, that is the name to keep an eye on. Heck of a player, about 6'3", 185, 190 pounds right now. And right now, really starting to rise on the Texas board, it appears.
He's got really good feet. He can make all the throws, and that's a Sark prerequisite. He can make all the throws. Kid's got good feet in the pocket. He's a good player. He's being overshadowed right now, but he's a good player.
Gerry, we will wrap it up with hoops talk. We're a week out from the signing period beginning. 2 guys in the boat, and we know Sean Miller's looking for a couple more guys to add to this recruiting class.
Yeah, Austin Gooseby, what will that decision be? I still think Texas is in a good spot over BYU. I think Duke is 3rd, and I think it's been that way for a while. But I think Texas is in a pretty good spot for Austin Gooseby. You still got to bring that thing home on November 12th. So we'll see. And I know he went up to BYU for their scrimmage against North Carolina. So BYU took another mighty swing at it up there in Provo. But I still think Texas is the favorite there. Cameron Williams, the 5-star, 6'11" power forward out of Phoenix St. Mary's. I think the kid's a stud, a future lottery pick. He is trending more Duke, Texas with Arizona 3rd. Now we'll see. I mean, last night, he's a different player in Coa-Pete, but my gosh, that's got to be a good phone call for Arizona to make to him this morning to say, you can come up here and see what you can do here as a freshman for us. And he's a different player than Coa-Pete, but that was a pretty good recruiting pitch last night for Arizona. But I've heard recently it's been more Texas Duke or Duke Texas. That family really liked their official visit to Texas. Not only Cameron, but the family, his little brother. Austin's a pretty easy flight, but certainly Duke is Duke. We've heard that before, the jokes before. So we'll see which way that goes. And the other 2 guys I'm still somewhat monitoring are Darren Rippey, the 6'2" point guard, which that could go anywhere. That recruitment could literally go anywhere. And then Maximo Adams cut his list and Texas was on it. But the question there is, I think Texas, Austin Gooseby and Cameron Williams are their guys. I think those are their guys. So a lot of this would be timing. When does a Maximo Adams, if he came back to Texas, said, hey, this is where I want to be? And I'm not saying that's the case at all. But what would the timing of that be versus when Cameron Williams makes the decision? Because Austin Gooseby and Cameron Williams are the 2 guys right now. Now, if Darren Rippey raised his hand, you can't say no. But I don't see that happen. I think Texas is in a good spot for Gooseby.
Gerry, I don't know about you. I'm kind of ready for this 26 cycle to wrap up so Texas can get to a absolutely loaded in-state class in 27. Sean Miller could put together a really, really top-notch class with just prospects from Texas.
He really could. I mean, while Marcus Spears moved over to Overtime Elite, I mean, obviously their home's still in Dallas, right? Marcus Spears and Dawson Batee, I'm the biggest Dawson Batee fan there is probably. Reese Alston at point guard in that class, the son of Skip DeMailou, Ray for Alston. There's some really good players that are either in Texas or that were started in Texas and moved on to national programs now. Beckham Black is involved in that as well. In that group of kids who have moved, it was at Duncanville last year. Obviously, David Peavy got a job over at prep school in Orlando and is going to do a great job over there. But the 27 class, there's some connections there for Texas that are interesting, obviously, with Marcus Spears' sister having a great freshman year on the volleyball team, and the Spears family absolutely loving everything Texas has to offer for their kids and what they've done for their daughter.
Absolutely. All right, Gerry, CJ, thank you guys for the knowledge and expertise. As always, thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you to Mark Saunders Allstate for sponsoring it. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, we got plenty of recruiting tidbits over there always. Just use the promo code OTFOG when you get to the site and sign up. That'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $39.95. Make sure that you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or on the site, you're not missing any of our recruiting coverage all year round. For Gerry, for CJ, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, welcome.